Are you better off buying a home or renting one? According to the real estate website Trulia, buying a home in a major metropolitan area is now 45% cheaper than renting. But there's a lot of other factors are involved in buying the house. Rebecca Jarvis is here with 5 things you need to know before you make the decision. Hello,
Hello,
Rebecca
Gail.
Jarvis. See, I was always raised to believe that if you can own it, you should own it, whether it's your house, whether it's your car. Now, after reading about you this morning, maybe that's not the best thing.
Well, I get that it is a psychological thing for a lot of people. A lot of people think of owning a home as a rite of passage and something to plan for the future. But right now, what people have to consider are a number of things. First one being, how long are you planning on staying in that home? Because what we saw in the housing crisis is that if you're trying to flip it, or if you're trying to make a quick move, you will end up paying more on the front end of that home, more than likely, than the value you get in your pocket when you walk away from it. So 5 to 10 years is the amount of time you want to plan to stay in a home if you're going to be buying it, at least 5 to 10 years.
So timing is important.
It is.
The second thing is location. Isn't it always location,
It's always
location?
It's always this. And you cited the Trulia study at the beginning of this report. Ultimately, location is going to play a role in whether or not you get a better deal renting or a better deal owning a home. In Minneapolis right now, for example, rental prices are up 2.6%, whereas the cost of buying a home is down 30%. So in a place like Minneapolis, my hometown, it makes more sense on a month-to-month basis what you're going to pay to buy a home in many cases. Whereas in Tucson, Arizona, which has been very battered, home prices there are very battered because of the housing crisis, it still makes more sense in many cases financially to rent. But you really have to do your diligence and look at your specific location if you're thinking about making this decision, and think about it from a what's it going to cost, what is the vacancy rate, because the higher the vacancy rate, the more likely you are to find a deal.
And hidden costs are always an issue, no matter what you do.
Always, in both cases. And on the owning side, think about the fact that there are closing costs, there is insurance, there is maintenance, there is upkeep, the cost on your life, the burden potentially on your life of having all that money tied up in a home. Whereas on the other side of things, rental prices, those costs are going up. The National Association of Realtors says 4% increase is what we can expect this year and next year in the cost of renting overall in the country. So that unexpected jump in renting is a cost, but maybe you feel like the cost of owning is too much of a mental burden for you, so the cost of renting weighs out to something slightly less because you have that burden, that intangible burden lifted.
I've always heard tax deductions are good if you own as opposed to renting.
And they certainly are. But the question is, how long are they going to be here for? As Washington grapples with balancing our budget, that's a big question going down the road. And so what people have to think about is this decision cannot be made simply because of a tax benefit, because that tax benefit may not forever be there. They used to be sacred cows. Now they're on the table as negotiating tools.
And finally, how do you plan to pay for it is always something you should consider.
20% down payment is the going rate right now. At least 20% is what you have to anticipate putting down on that home. But your credit score is going to play into this heavily, too. A lot of people see 3.41% for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, and they think, wow, these are near record lows. Well, ultimately, you have to have a pretty decent credit score in order to access that kind of rate. So think about the fact that if you are planning to take up a mortgage on your home, you're going to ultimately be beholden to that credit score as well.
All right, good advice. That first one, I'm still stuck to 5 to 10 years. Wish I would have known that earlier.
Oops.
Oops is right. Thank you, Rebecca.